With the recent rise of popularity of the WoW Classic Hardcore Challenge, it inspired me to think of what other challenges I could do in WoW. So I decided I would make a challenge in Retail WoW, which is noticeably easier than Classic, I'll admit. But hopefully this challenge will increase that difficulty to a point where it can be an actual challenge. I'm actually not even sure this challenge is fully completable. I kinda need to do some testing to make sure that it will be completable, but I figured I'd get started anyway and see how it goes. So here's the challenge. Ironman. White and gray items only. This will make it way harder to level once I get higher level. 2. Hardcore. Once I die, I'll delete my character. And 3. Bloodthirsty. That means I can't do any quests to get XP. But there are a couple caveats to that rule. Firstly, if you're playing a class or race that requires you to complete quests to get out of starting zone, then that's okay to do, although I would frown upon the users of those characters and races. My goal is to stick with only races that start at level 1 and in classes that do not require a questline. My name is Caligos, and I am the Bloodman. For my first run, I decided I'd make a Night Elf Warrior. I figured Night Elf would be good for this challenge due to their ability to Shadow Meld and drop threat. And I went Warrior because I'm a Zug Warrior main. It started off easy enough. The game doesn't really expect you to have any stats at this point anyway, so I just did what I do best. Kill things. At first I was killing willy-nilly, but I quickly noticed certain mobs drop more copper/items that can be sold for copper than others. If I wanted to be able to buy higher item level items, I was gonna need some cash. After a couple levels in the starting zone, I made my way out to Teldrassil proper. It was at this point that I decided I would move to new zones as I hit their minimum level. Originally, this was going to be mandatory for the challenge, but it turns out this is actually the ideal method, as the mobs will always be your level for that first level, thus granting more XP. Once I hit level 5, I made my way to Darnassus to buy some gear, and I was off to Darkshore. Interesting little tidbit here. I wanted to see what the difference would be if I had done this in Classic versus in Retail, and as it turns out, as you can see here, you actually need a lot more kills to level up in Retail than you do in Classic. Once I made it to Darkshore, I killed several Murlocs that apparently don't give XP, then some Trolls that also apparently don't give XP, but ultimately ended up hitting level 7 without much trouble. I was on to Ashenvale with a new plan. I could only get XP from kills and exploring. So the more I explored the better, but even that wasn't really worth more than 1 or 2 kills. So what if I could kill something that gives more XP? I tried killing the elites outside of Blackfathom Deeps, and they turned out to be kinda difficult and not worth much XP, but what if there was something better? Of course. How could I have forgotten? Rares. While it does feel kinda scummy, they're still kills, right? I figured I'd let myself get away with it if I only killed each rare once. I started routing my path to hit each and every rare in Ashenvale. And I have to say, this made it way better. Not only was leveling going to be much faster, but it was kind of fun going around rare hunting. Once I hit level 9, I got Whirlwind, and this is when things started to speed up. I knew going in that Warrior was going to be a bit of a pain at first because you're kind of forced into playing Prot with like no abilities, but once I get some talent points, I'll be cruising. It was at this point I began my trek to Ek Alam. He's a water elemental that apparently packed a pretty big punch. A lot of Wowhead comments talked about his 12-second stun. That scares me. Of all the enemies I've faced so far, this is the first where I feel I really need to be careful. I made my way towards him through a battlefield. I could pull pretty big groups here fairly easily, so I hung around a bit, and then started walking towards Ek Alam. It was at this point I made a fatal mistake. I had played this character for several hours now. I hadn't faced a real tough foe, and I figured it would be a little while before I really started feeling the effects of wearing only gray and white items. But after all this time, hundreds of mobs slain, no, it wasn't Ek Alam and his 12-second stun that killed me. No. No, it was a guard. I walked too close to the Horde outpost. Keep in mind, there are tons of non-PvP questing mobs right outside. I assumed I'd be safe as long as I didn't get too close, but apparently I did. And so ended the journey of Ironelf. It was heartbreaking. How could I have spent all this time only to die at level 9? People in Classic don't even die that low. I was a failure. But if there's one thing Ironelf taught me, it's to never give up. And so I began. This time, I'll use everything I've learned and keep Ironelf in my heart as a new journey begins for Blood Dwarf.